Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Clockedin with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is Clockedin with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. We have Steven Schrutt. He's the founder and owner of the Hunger Thirst Group. He also, you might not realize it, but he is running the St. Pete nightlife. Steven, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. You know, it's always nice to get to talk about what, we do every day and what we enjoy. And, for me, it's one of those things that we don't stop very often. So to stop and take time, you get to realize, how much fun we are having doing this.
Absolutely. It's good to reflect.
Yeah.
You get to see what's going on because your progress has been insane. It's been very impressive. Where did this journey start for you?
Probably really it started back, over 11 years ago, moving to St. Pete and, finding this awesome city, and for myself, my career, it really, being such a great, this city has been everything for me. It's an opportunity, it's been the right time for myself and my career. And, the opportunities of the city have really just continue to grow, and we were talking about it earlier, this city's so different in the 11 years that I started, but I think I saw that there was such an opportunity in downtown for it to become a lot bigger than what it was back then. And even where it is now, it's expanding and growing. And, I wanted to be part of that, for me back then, it was all about, finally opening up my own place, and now it's 7. So it's like, I don't know what happened. It's like a plant, you put water on it, it grows, right? So that's kind of how it feels now.
Absolutely. So what was the first place also with St. Pete? It's a very interesting spot because it's over the bridge. It's right down the street from Tampa. But most people...
It's not far, but it feels it sometimes, right?
People talk about St. Pete if you're local, but if you're moving here, no one's like, let's go St. Pete. It's becoming that nowadays, the past couple of years. But I can't imagine 11 years ago it was let's go St. Pete. It is, but it's very different.
Yeah, I grew up in Tampa. I was born actually in Buffalo.
Okay.
So my family, my mom and dad brought me and my brother down to Tampa in the mid 80s. So we grew up in Tampa. St. Pete, like we were talking about earlier, St. Pete was a beach town, right?
Yeah.
You didn't really go to St. Pete unless you were going to the beach.
Yeah.
And even then we spent more summers and family vacations in Clearwater Beach. So St. Pete was still kind of, this, place that we didn't really frequent. And, for me growing up, loving sports, I started to come to St. Pete more because the Lightning started out in St. Pete. And it was called the Thunderdome, which is now Tropicana for the Rays. But back then, that's what kind of started bringing me as a young adult over to St. Petersburg. It was, hockey games and then eventually getting the Rays and getting our own baseball team. So, I started to come over to St. Pete more than just going to the beach. And then, downtown started to grow with the city starting to do events like First Friday back then. And you're talking 15 years ago, it was a whole different, city. But, the city was starting to put on events and, starting to grow. And, part of that is such an art community and culture. And hospitality and art go hand in hand. And I think that's something for myself. I've always been into, creating. And so hospitality is really intertwined with that creative side of, the art community.
Yeah.
And so that's also why I love working with local artists is, seeing that foundation of like art, music, and fashion and culture. Hospitality goes hand in hand with that. We want to, and it goes into like what we do when we create a concept, You and I were talking about it, like, the big dogs of hospitality, like Dave Grutman, right?
Yeah.
Like they tap into all senses. Yeah. It's not just the food that's on the plate. It's the wallpaper. It's the music, the decor, maybe it's, they're having a Vegas style show while you're eating dinner, and there's, they really bring like a Vegas style to a lot of what they do. And so for me, hospitality always kind of, connects with the art culture.
Yeah, that's a really interesting approach because people go, oh, I love the environment. Yeah. Like, as a guest, you have no idea what it took to create that environment. And people say that all the time. Like, he's got Parks and Rec, Dirty Laundry, and like, even with Dirty Laundry, like the amount of people who went there and they're like, oh, this is so cool. The door opens like this and this thing happens. And you're like, that didn't just happen. Like, no. So we'll put a lot of time behind it.
So that actually was a lot of work. Thank God I found a company that builds that. They do stuff for Disney, actually.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. Anthony Freeze, who's a local, back to art. Anthony Freeze, an amazing local artist and creator. And, he and I have been working together for years. And he actually was able to find that company. And we were able to do what my crazy vision was of, having a washing machine open up. So you could go into a hidden bar. Yeah. So, and it's always that like wow factor too, and Dirty Laundry, for instance, that's like such an experience because, you pick up the phone, you get told a code, you press it in, the washing machine stops spinning, you go in and then you're like, it's so different from each other. Like I was just in like this former laundromat cafe and now I'm in this really cool, Havana-inspired speakeasy that it just your eyes light up, and it's fun to watch people go in. I like being on the speakeasy side and seeing them enter, and they're like looking around, like, "What the heck did I just walk into?" I love that, and that's one of my favorite things there.
Yeah, that's incredible.
People's like. They're wow. It's cool. We actually at one time were like, we need to just set a camera right there and just
record these.
Film people walking in because they're just like. It's like Space Mountain.
I love it.
Eye-opening.
Absolutely. So what was the first concept and what caused you to basically make that jump? Because there's a lot of listeners who are like, I'd love to have a restaurant. I'd love to do that, but it's a tough industry.
It's, I've been doing it a long time. It's so tough. It's tough today, if not harder than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
And, you got to love what you do though, right? Yeah. I'm sure football players, although they make tons of money, wake up sore as shit and going like, well, what am I doing? It's hard, right? Yeah. Like it's physically it can be difficult, mentally it's very exhausting and draining, but you got to love what you do and that's what keeps you going. I even, lately I've been having a hard time with certain things and I'm like, man, just one day at a time, dude. Just remind yourself one day at a time, thank God you're able to do what you love. Thank God that you have the kind of problems that are solvable, right? Yeah. Like we can fix these, right? They're not the problems of we're not busy, right? That's hard. I've been there. Yeah. I've had to close places. I've had to change places, and those are hard decisions. Yeah. And the other operational stuff that comes in that can be a headache for you. You gotta just handle it, and the operating side of things is it's the work. It's always the work. The creative side's fun, right? Like that's the fun part. It's hard work still because you got to make it all flow. Yeah. But man, the Avenue 11 years ago. For me, it was I wanted my own place. Yeah. And running bars and working in restaurants and bars, whether you're in the kitchen cooking or washing dishes or, starting out bussing tables, it all kind of comes to that point in your life where it's like, do you want this? And for me, it was, right? Like I wanted my own, like and like creating my own places has always been what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really, when I started the journey of like where I'm at now, the Avenue was all I ever really wanted anyways. Yeah. Like I just wanted a place that was mine. Yeah. And so, it's kind of led me to this crazy, 11 years now and 7 places. Yeah. That's a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's incredible. You brought up 2 major points that I really enjoyed. The first one is that no matter what level you're at, you're going to have problems. Yeah. And you have to realize that, but problems become opportunities, and it's better to have big problems than little problems. And then the second thing is where you go, I've always wanted to have the Avenue. Like the one place is all I've ever wanted. Yeah. These rests are this is all a bonus. Like we're playing with. Yeah,
it was for me too. Like I get asked a lot about that. And like, I think that, when I opened the Avenue, I was obviously younger and starting my entrepreneur journey and, being a business owner and not knowing a lot of it. Like I knew management side, right? From running the bar that I was in charge of previously. And I knew a lot of the operational side of that. Yeah. But when you're the owner, you learn a lot of shit. Like I didn't know how to file taxes. I didn't know that I need an attorney. I didn't know how to read a lease. I didn't know that shit. Yeah. I had to learn it. I had to do it. Electric panel goes down. I'm not a fucking electrician, right? Like how do you deal with that? Like you figure it out. And there was a lot of that for me. It was on the job training. Yeah. It was learning as you go. It was, I remember one night at the Avenue, like when the credit card machines went down and I couldn't take credit cards and, you got like 200 people in your place and the only people that know your credit cards aren't working are you and your bartenders. And I'm like, just keep serving them drinks. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But we lost a lot of money that night because people couldn't close out their tabs. But you know what? The money's going to come back. Yeah. Right? You do a good job. Those people are going to come back. And at the end of the day, we didn't go out of business because of one night. And I also remember telling myself in those situations, like, it's my responsibility to figure it out so that my staff can do what they need to do. Yeah. And like, I always want to be able to do whatever I can so that it's easier for them. And so I always try to take that on my shoulders because that's the hat I wear, right? And like being the owner, and I had to learn that early on. Like, of course. Shit, there's no one else. Right. And I didn't have managers at the time. And like when I first opened the Avenue, like, dude, I used to sleep there. I literally couldn't afford a manager, at the time, I wasn't financially stable. I, was living off $35,000 a year. And oh, wow. Yeah, like, dude, it's
you would just take draws.
Yeah, like I literally was paying myself $3,000 a month and, $1,000 of that was going to my apartment. Yeah. And thank God, I was eating all my meals under my own roof. Right. But like, and I, there were a lot of nights I made myself something to eat after we closed. Yeah. And stay the night there. And, like plenty of 15 to 20 hour shifts. Yeah. It's, you do not get to where you want to be by doing the minimum. Yeah. I don't give a fuck who you are, but you can't do the minimum. It's just like anything else in life. Yeah. Business is just like working out or playing a sport. You have to put in the work. Yeah. You have to practice. You have to, you have to do it. If there's no action, there's no results. Yeah. So for me, it's always been that. It's like that mindset of you got to put in the work. You got to, and for me too, it's always been one of those things. And I try to always let our management teams and even our staffs know, whether they're cooks, bartenders, servers, whatever it may be, hosts, busboys. I started as a busboy in this industry. Yeah, you have got to have pride in your own work. Yeah, be the best fucking busboy. Yeah, be the best bartender. Yeah. Be on time for all your shifts. Yeah. Like simple shit like that creates your work ethic. Absolutely. Right? And it stands out. It's funny. I'll sometimes talk to like new busboys at places of mine, and I'll be like, I started where you were, and they look at me like, what? Like a lot of people think like, no way, right? But like, everyone starts somewhere, right? Like, you don't just, you don't get to be the starting quarterback of the team if you never thrown a fucking football, right? Like, you've got to put in the work. And so that's one of the things I always try to let our teams know, like, man, you gotta work hard every day.
Yeah.
Every day is the same. It becomes Groundhog's Day, right?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta bust your ass every day because it will add up.
Yeah, and I think, so you brought up like a lot of major points, and I think one of the things I appreciate is the vulnerability of sharing, hey, it's not sunshine and rainbows. Because I look at you and I'm like, dude, this guy's opening new restaurants during COVID. It's so easy for him. Where's he how's he doing all this? I'm like, I don't understand how it
glad I make it look easy. I guess if you're good at something, it looks easy.
Exactly. I mean, because
Michael Jordan makes basketball look easy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You're doing. You were definitely.
It's definitely not easy though. I wish it was.
You were definitely doing it, and I appreciate you sharing that. It's like, yo, stuff was tight. Like, stuff hasn't been easy, and there's a challenge component to it. And the other big point is that I think everyone can take from this is that you take accountability and like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
There is nobody else. The ball stops with me. I am the ball. If you really need help, figure it out. Like, call a friend, call a mentor, but it's really on you. And
it's a team. And for me, it starts with me. I want to communicate well. I want my team to know the expectations.
Absolutely.
I don't like to lose, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just who I am. But I also want people to know that they're appreciated for the job they do.
Yeah.
That their job matters, because it really does. I can't do this shit on my own.
Yeah.
I don't make every meal.
No way.
I don't pour every drink. I don't manage every property as a on-site manager.
Yeah.
I don't have the time for that anymore. Yeah. But I'm doing this every day.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not sitting in the Bahamas chilling the fuck out. I wish I was sometimes. But like, I'm still working every day to make it a great experience for the guests and the staff. I'm a big believer that people that are having a good job, like a good time at their job, are going to provide good service to the guest. Yeah. If you're happy, you're gonna give that off. The energy that my staffs have is going to show to the guest experience. Absolutely. And like, I just had bad service somewhere the other day, and like, I hate that because I love this industry. Yeah. And like, I don't want someone to be in our industry that doesn't love it. Yeah. And for me, it's always been one of those things like, I don't understand why, it's so hard to just be like, hey, can I get y'all anything? Yeah. Or I recommend these things, because this was our first time the other night at a business, and it's a local business. And I was like, man, like, their bartender's not bringing it for this place. And I hate that for the business owner, because I am the business owner, right? So I'm thinking in my same, like, if that was my bartender, I'd be disappointed, because this person impacts everything. Yeah. And so I want people to enjoy what they're doing. You got to be passionate about this. We deliver an experience, and there's plenty of places to go get a cold one. Yeah. And there's plenty of places to go get a bite to eat. Yeah. So we have to have people that really love what they're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's one of the biggest things. Now, for you go from the Avenue, and then you get, what was the next?
So honestly, the next place was a place called King's Street Food Counter. Okay. And it was named after my dog, actually. King, the painting he actually passed almost a year ago now. Oh, man. Yeah, so it was kind of unexpected last year. Ironically enough, I got that really cool painting done, and about a month later, he was diagnosed with cancer. So, crazy, man. It was my little ride or die dog. My first real dog besides my family dog growing up. So my first adult dog, and went through a lot together in 9 years. But I named the place after him because it was all like a throwback kind of new age diner spot. Yeah. So we had like a bunch of really cool gourmet hot dog, like kind of did what I did with the Avenue with the burgers, right? Yeah. I was like, oh, let's do it with hot dogs and grilled cheeses and craft beer. And it just didn't work out. Yeah. Had it for just shy of 3 years. Very kind of family-friendly concept.
Yeah.
Didn't really do the greatest downtown because we weren't full liquor, and a lot of the families during the week weren't coming downtown.
Yeah.
Also, we were very early to like the Edge District.
Okay.
And so Edge District was not what it is today.
Okay.
But that was, excuse me, I knew the Edge District was going to blow up.
Yeah.
Right? Like I knew it was going to become what I saw as like a very neighborhood and atmosphere, and that's what I was hoping for, and it has become that, and I love it. It's such a great part of what makes the St. Pete and downtown St. Pete great. I love the Edge District. It's become such a walkable, very cool, great part of extension of downtown, and even like where we are now, Grand Central, which Grand Central was also when I first moved to St. Pete, and to see it kind of like go through a revitalization is really cool to see. But Kings was it was a failed business, like I mentioned earlier. Like you got wins and losses, and you have to figure them out. With Kings, we weren't doing well, and we were looking at how to, for me, I'm like, how do I improve this? Yeah. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I couldn't grow the business. It was not there. It was not able to do the amount of sales that I needed it to do. And so I ended up trying to sell it.
Really?
And, had a great lease, had a fully nice build out, awesome spot. Reason why I chose that location when I got it, I was blown away when I got that space because it was the only patio in the Edge District.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, I was like, dude, this is a steal. Yeah. I got that location for like very minimal. Yeah. I had a little bit of money saved up now because the Avenue was in year 3 and doing well. So I was like, starting to stack a little bit of money finally in my life. I had money and I was like, I kind of got the creative itch. Yeah. And a former chef of mine at the time, he and I were starting to like make fun food together after work. And, I told him my vision of the concept, and, we started making all the food, and, it started off pretty good, but we had some operational issues and, staffing issues and, management issues, and it just, didn't work out. And, like I said, I was trying to sell it. And, when I couldn't sell the place, I told myself, like, I got to figure this shit out, right? Like, if I'm stuck with this, like, I gave myself a time, a deadline. And I'm like, okay, if this doesn't sell by, this X month, I'm going to have to close it. And I need to reinvest in it. Yeah. And I started working on the no vacancy concept. Really? And so I, in the back of my mind, when I was trying to sell it, it's funny, I had an offer, and they never had a verbal offer. Yeah. The paperwork never came in. Of course. And it was on my like deadline too, right? Like I was working on this offer. It's the day you said. And I'm like, I'm giving myself till this deadline, and I'm going to close down in the summer and do my no vacancy concept. And I created the no vacancy concept, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to sell this because I want to do no vacancy. Yeah. But, dude, I'm not going to lie. It takes balls to double up. And, like, I went and bought a liquor license. I spent money on renovating the space. And, thank God no vacancy has been successful. But it was scary. And no vacancy was a year old when COVID hit. Wow. Oh, so this was a massive jump for this is like the same. Thank God we got open when we did, because COVID would have really impacted our opening. And we were able to establish ourselves, prior to COVID, because, we opened in January 2019. And if we didn't establish ourselves, I wonder, because, I opened Parking Lot Tampa 3.5 months before COVID hit, and we've never been the same since. It literally has gone through, a lot of ups and downs, and I think a lot of it was due to COVID.
Absolutely. So with Park and Rec, what was obviously you had the Tampa location, went into COVID. What was your thought when everything happened with COVID? Because obviously you got a couple restaurants now, you're a little more established, and it is not
crazy time, bro. So Park and Rec St. Pete was almost 3 years old. Opened up Park and Rec Tampa a couple months before COVID hit, and crazy time. I actually lost my dad a week after I opened Park and Rec Tampa unexpectedly. So yeah, it was really a crazy time in my life. But I know like I was presented you deal with the cards you're dealt, right? Yeah. And so losing my dad was still awful 3 years later, and one of those things that I know what he would tell me though, right? Like you got to go handle your business. Yeah. As much as I wanted to grieve, and I still am dealing with it 3 years later. Like it's a huge impact, but I had a week-old business, and I didn't have the luxury of a pity party. I took a couple days and tried to be there for my mom, my brother, and myself, and plan a funeral and all these things, and it was crazy. But like I had to dive into my business. It was a week old. I had to do it, and so then COVID hit, and it's like a whole nother whirlwind. Something none of us
absolutely
like, dude. Who's ever dealt with that before? Yeah, right. Like I just dealt with
a personal thing,
a personal loss, and now I'm facing a business and
catastrophe.
Yeah, man. I mean, like my monthly rents are not cheap, especially now with 7 places. Yeah. But even back then, with a brand new business, we were 3 months old. I just built this place for a year. Yeah, I didn't have the cash,
the reserves. So
I was fucked. Sorry, but like. I was like, what the F am I going to do? Like, it was very, very scary. And thankfully, we came out of that. We were able to reopen. Yeah. We were able to move forward. I've been very thankful for a lot of the people who, were wanting to get back to work, staff, of course. Customers wanting to come out, such an unknown time. Right? Like, we got staff in masks and, I mean, what a fucking weird, like, I can't wait to see a documentary on all that shit. Yeah. Because, like, it was a weird time in history. Like, absolutely. You're going to a restaurant and people are wearing a mask and your table's 6 feet away from you. Like, did we just do that? Yeah. Like, dude, like, I think when you're in it, you just, right, we always... Yeah, we move forward and we make the best out of every situation. But like now looking back, like
that was simulation.
Like, whoa, we just were doing all of that. It was weird. Yeah. What a weird time. But we made the best of it. We all pushed forward, and thankfully, we're able to operate, and thank God for being able to do that. Yeah. It was a scary time in hospitality, and we were faced with fines and, limitations and all these different things. But, when I opened up Park and Rec Tampa, it was a dream of mine because my dream originally started in Tampa, right? Like I wanted, before I came to St. Pete and opened the Avenue, I wanted to open a place in Tampa. Yeah. I grew up in Tampa. I was born in Buffalo and grew up in Tampa. And so like my network was in Tampa. Right? All my friends are in Tampa that I grew up with. And so like I always wanted us all to have our own hangout spot, right? Yeah. Like, and being in the industry, like I've always wanted to be able to like my best friends are here and we're cheersing at my place and that kind of thing. So when I was able to have success at Park and Rec St. Pete, I felt like that was the right concept to bring to Tampa. Rewinding back in the day, my goal was to open up Avenue in Tampa. Oh, really? And even Good Fortune prior to that in Tampa. Wow. And for me, when I opened the Avenue in St. Pete and I moved to St. Pete, I wanted a year later to open Avenue Tampa. Okay. And have an operating partner or a general manager or somebody run this St. Pete. I didn't want to live in St. Pete.
Really?
I didn't know shit about St. Pete.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I didn't spend a lot of time in St. Pete as a kid.
Yeah.
I grew up in Tampa.
Yeah.
And you know, I still think about that often. Like, I moved to St. Pete thinking it was going to be how I got started.
Yeah.
And now I don't ever want to leave St. Pete.
Yeah.
I love St. Pete. You know, I love this city in every way. You know, it's, you know, the beach is close, downtown's booming and cool, and there's plenty to do, and there's culture, and there's restaurants, and there's concerts, and there's so much to do. And then if you want to get away, the beach is right there.
Yeah.
You know, and so I love that we have like the best of both worlds, especially for a city in Florida, right? Like a lot of cities in Florida are like little tiny beach towns.
Yeah.
You know, or then you have like Miami that's like Las Vegas. So it's different. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the best things, and that might have been one of your best, like luckiest things that happened, or like strokes of luck, because
gotta have some luck. See, you make your luck though, right? Like you have to, right? Situations come up, and I've had that happen. Even for me, like I got the Park and Rec St. Pete location because the guy that owned that property at the time, which he doesn't anymore, but he was my next door neighbor landlord, right?
Yeah.
So I had the Avenue doing well, and he used to come over maybe once, twice a week and get a bite to eat and listen to a little live music. And I'd always stop by the table, hey, how are you? And the business went out next door to me, and he's like, I know you run a good business. I come into your business. Like, are you interested in taking this space? So like, I made my own luck because I was doing the right thing. I was working hard. I was creating opportunity, but also by treating someone right. Yeah. And establishing a relationship with them on a ground level. Like just that, I didn't know that he owned the building until we got to know each other more. And he's like, I happen to be the guy that owns the building next door to you. And, you know, my tenant is going out of business. Like, would you be interested? So, you know, opportunities come because you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a point that was really good. You're like, even if you're a waiter or you're a staff or you're the cook or you're any position, you might get bored because it's going to feel very repetitive. You brought up Groundhog Day. But the boredom is really where you can excel, because that shows that you're consistent in what your actions are. And like, if you didn't show up every day at the Avenue being like, I'm bringing it, why can't someone else who comes in for half the shift bring it as much as I'm bringing it for? I know as the owner, you're doing a lot more.
And it's funny you touch on that as well, because I always, when I used to, and I still tell our managers, I always feel like there's a sweet spot in like a shift, right? For like each person, right? Like most servers don't want to work 12-hour days, right? Like they don't. Yeah. That's not fun, right? Like if they can work like 6 to 8, it's a good sweet spot. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to make good money, and they're not burnt out. Yeah. And then the guest sees that. Yeah. Right? Like if the guest sees that, then it's going to affect the business. So a lot of that is something we think about too, is like, you don't want people to, you know, feel burnt out. You don't want people to, you know, not enjoy what they're doing. Yeah. And because it does get repetitive.
Oh, absolutely. So for you bring Park and Rec to Tampa, second location. Did you have the thought of pushing this out?
I did. That was another thing. Like, obviously my dream was to open my own place in Tampa. Yeah. But then there was some thought of like, is this going to be the one that I do? You know, is this like a big picture thing? Yeah. It crossed my mind a lot back then. Yeah. Like 2018, 2019. Okay. And then 2020 happened, right? So, kind of derailed that. Yeah. And also for me, I don't know if I can do the same thing like very often. Yeah. And even though like the day to day is that, building out something is very exciting when it's new. Yeah. Right? Like doing Park and Rec once was awesome. Yeah. Doing it twice was really cool, but not as exciting as going and doing dirty laundry, right? Like it just wasn't, because you're creating something ground level, brand new. Doing this and doing this and doing this. Like if I were to like I would never want to own, 10 Applebee's. Like, that's not me. Yeah. Because they're all pretty much the same. And don't get me wrong, there's probably some operational
advancements.
It would make things easier, right?
Of course.
Okay, same menu, same menu. Operationally, there's some great positives to that, but creatively, it's boring. Yeah, and I just don't think that's me. That was tough. And Park and Rec Tampa and Park and Rec St. Pete, as much as I try to make them the same, they do have their own lanes because the buildings aren't exactly the same, right? Yeah. The buildings aren't the same, and the location's not the same. So if I were to do Park and Rec, in another market, a third one, obviously it would be different because no two buildings are the same. Yeah. And no cities are the same and locations are the same. But I don't know if that's really something I really want to explore anymore. Yeah. I had those plans and thoughts, and that was something that I was really interested in and excited about. And I had some really cool meetings. I'm not going to say with who, but a really big company. Yeah. And COVID kind of derailed that and changed a lot of that. So when I was looking at, I had just opened Tampa, had some really, really cool meetings with one of the biggest companies in the world. Yeah. I'll just put it that way. And COVID kind of changed all that. So, yeah, man. I mean, I would entertain it. Yeah. But it's not something I'm seeking. Right? I'm not going out soliciting it anymore. I've had people from other markets reach out to me I'd love to Park and Rec in, this market or that city or whatever. And if it's something I'd entertain. I personally don't want to operate them. Yeah. I wouldn't want to operate a Park and Rec in Dallas, Texas. I don't have the bandwidth for that. Yeah. I'm so busy in St. Pete, Tampa already that I know I'm at a good place. Where my plate's full.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a blessing that all that happened because you're very self-aware in what you actually enjoy. And it seems like you really enjoy that creative process. And I've seen you light up when you're this restaurant had to happen. It's not me. I'm sitting on it. I'm chomping at the bit. I got to get this thing out there. It's not, and that's kind of where my next question comes in. With COVID, a lot of people are receding, and you are, the Hunger Thirst Group is doing very, very well. And I know the St. Pete people are very grateful for that because you got dirty laundry.
I'm grateful for the St. Pete people. Without them, we don't have any cool places that I'm able to do. I think. Again, going back to, I said, I think, when I moved here 11 years ago, I saw this city as a, city on the rise and a city that was going to grow. I did not think it would grow to what it is. Yeah. I will say that. If someone 11 years ago was there's going to be high rises booming everywhere now and, all this kind of shit, I would have been nah. Maybe in 20 years, but not as quick as it has been. But it's a very desirable city, I was saying. I know why I love it. I love it because the beach is 10 minutes away. I love it that downtown is not boring and that it's safe, right? That was another thing we were talking about earlier. Downtown's walkable. It's safe. You've got great, places to go for dining and drinking and dancing. And, you've got great venues that put on shows, whether it's, stadiums or theaters or whatever it may be. So I think we have a lot of what people are looking for. Yeah. And also a lot of what I wanted back then was I love being able to walk on the weekends, right? You park the car, I'm not a drive to the office guy anymore. Yeah. But that was something that I thought about 10, 11, 12, 15 years ago. on the weekend, you want to walk to your neighborhood bar.
Absolutely.
You want being in the industry, drinking and driving. I don't condone that. So like I always want, and I've never been like a big drinker, but like I love that you can like do the live, work, play type of thing.
Yeah.
And like that's what a city is, right? Like it's that New York lifestyle without being in New York in the cold. Because I don't like cold.
No, absolutely. So what allowed you to have those next couple restaurants? Because we got Dirty Laundry, Good Fortune, and then the newest of all is Lost and Found, right?
Yeah. Talking with you earlier, you guys, I told you I got a few others that are
in the books.
Things I hope to do one day, and there's been things that I've shelved before, and I've got a concept I thought about the other day that I created like 7 years ago that I've never done it. Maybe one day I do. I don't know. Yeah. I'm big on right place, right time.
Absolutely.
I don't want to put like a square in a circle. Lost and Found, the concept I came up with because I thought about putting it somewhere else 2 years ago, and that deal didn't work out. And then I had it, and I'm like, okay, maybe one day I do it, maybe I don't. Yeah. But then when that opportunity came for where I put Lost and Found, at first I was a little standoffish because one, I had just opened Good Fortune, and Lost and Found financially for me was a stretch. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to do this. I'm coming out of my pocket. It's a lot of money. I just opened a place, but I really did believe in the location and the concept. And when I created the Lost and Found concept, I wrote it, and I don't think I've ever come up with a concept that didn't have food attached to it. Like as part of the brand. And I'm big on, it being full service. Yeah. And for me, the space didn't have room for a kitchen. And I kept trying to figure that out. And I was thinking about doing just a cold kitchen, so like sandwiches. Okay. But then again, if I give up the real estate for a kitchen, could that be an area where it's better suited for guests to, like I was looking at part of the space, and I'm like, if I built a kitchen, then I gotta go through this wall. Yeah. It's gonna delay opening. Are we really gonna sell this much food? And so, it kind of was one of those things. And then I decided that I was gonna buy a food truck. Okay. And that's where the food truck idea really started. But I was looking at, okay, I have this menu I want to do. Yeah. I'll buy a food truck. Yeah. And with everything that's gone on in the last few years with how crazy labor and food costs are, it really became one of those things that like, do I really want another kitchen? Okay. In the sense of like food costs, labor. Of course. What if this person doesn't show up to work? Because we deal with that
all the time.
It's scary and frustrating. Like I've had locations where like, thank God it hasn't been very often, but like where the kitchen was closed that day because we only have one cook and the person's sick or quits. Yeah. And so like it sucks being handcuffed, but like when your operations are only allowing you to have minimal staff, you have to have good people that are reliable, and we're at the mercy of them. Yeah. And so I didn't really want to do that again. Right? I already have that with
everything else.
Everywhere else. And Good Fortune is a large production. Yeah. It's my biggest restaurant. We've got sushi chefs, we've got, prep kitchen, we've got, our line, where we've got several cooks on the line, and, we've got, full service. And so there's a lot of moving parts. And after doing that, I was like, I think I want to pump the brakes. I just want to do a bar. Yeah. And with doing that, the food truck idea was like, there's so many cool food trucks. Let's connect with them, collaborate. They might have a following that comes to the bar. Fantastic. And we've seen that so far, right? Like some of these food trucks, people follow them to their events, right? Like we had this hot dog food truck that brought like 30 friends of theirs. It was like, that's awesome. Right? Like you follow that food truck.
So that's one of the biggest things that I think you do very well, and you think about in different ways where you're like, I can mitigate risk here while also bringing in we can rise up each other. And I think that's one of the biggest things where you're like, the food truck, they might come on just Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a weekly spot. Maybe they just come
we're starting to kind of find which ones do well, which ones are good fits, who's got availability, but it's another network. And and it's also a great way to collab.
Yeah.
And like they're part of the community. Absolutely. They're part of the industry. They're part of hospitality. I hope that for my neighbors, it's not impacting them, right? Like, we don't have that many restaurants near us anyways. So, we really only have one. And so, we've been eating over there a lot. So, but like we have our food trucks at night, predominantly. And it's really just a way to keep the people in our building being able to get something to eat. It's 3 hours. It's not like we're, hurting our neighbor. It's really just a way to keep the lost and found guests knowing that they can eat. It's just a small piece of why you might come to us, right? Like, okay, we're gonna go out for drinks. They always have different food trucks. Let's see what they have today, right? Like
it's a variety,
right? And the cool thing is, a lot of people, as like we all go out, and if you're going somewhere, but like maybe 3 of your friends haven't eaten, like, well, dude, they have food trucks.
Yeah,
right.
Fine.
Cool. Right? Now your friend doesn't go, oh, we're going to a restaurant, we don't want to go there. Yeah. Or we will meet you there later, and now the whole group goes to that restaurant. So for me, it was like, it's an offering that is just kind of that icing on the cake. It's not going to make or break us.
And it's so good to have a win-win scenario in most of these situations, because it rises them up, but it also doesn't deter from you. And I love how you have so many different perspectives you see from. You're like, we have the employees, we have the guests, we have the neighbors. No one even thinks about the neighbors, and it's like,
I wear a lot of hats.
You do. It gives you a lot of perspectives.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, what do you think one of the things that got you from one location to 7 now at this point? Like, what do you think was some of the biggest things that allowed you to make that jump and that leap? Because that's a lot. Like, there's a lot of restaurateurs who I know, they just sit at 2, or they sit at 3 or 1, or what's allowing you to grow? Like, what is it?
I think having good people, I'm big on developing people. Yeah. I wish I could hold good people longer, right? Like, I'd love to keep growing them, and, that's my goal, especially as the older I get. I don't want to do, 15 to 20 hour days all the time. I want to, be able to keep things a little bit more at arm's length. But I think that a lot of what we do is, the creative side, right? Like, I want my places all to be different from each other, but also bringing something fresh to the market we're in. And that's why, like, I've got a couple other ideas, and I'd like to see them happen. But I'm also very content. I'm thankful for where I'm currently at, and I don't want to feel like we have to do any more, because we don't. And it's not an arrogance thing. There's plenty of work every day. Yeah. We got plenty on our plate. Operations are always, there's always operational headaches. Yeah. And so there's always room for improvement. Absolutely. But the creative side is fun. And bringing more unique experiences to the city is something I love. And for me, that jump from one place to 7 has been a lot. Yeah. And it was something that I don't think I ever planned on. Like I said, I always wanted my own place. And, maybe as I've gotten older, the creative side has kind of been something that I kind of have, the knack for, and the kind of feel like I know what our city is missing, or this could be cool. But I also let, like, a space speak to me. Like, again, going back to that, like, I don't want to put a square in a circle. So, like, I've always kind of tried to let, like, okay, like, I could see this concept there, and, like, for me, like I said, like Lost and Found, for instance, I was creating that because I felt like it might be somewhere else that I could put it. Yeah. And so I almost didn't put it here because of the kitchen thing. Yeah. But then I just had to keep spinning my wheels every night and think about that more. I can't let that deter this concept because it is a small portion of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like food isn't the driving force. But it can make you more well-rounded. And I'm a big believer in that because I really do enjoy a bar that has food.
Yeah.
Right? Like restaurants, awesome, but there's something about going to a bar, having a good time, and knowing you can still eat.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that. That's more of who I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that, we've had some great opportunity because of the city we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the coolest things is that you keep innovating and you keep realizing that, hey, this might be the place, this might not be the place. And it's not always you let the space come to you, but you have the separate ideas because you're like, we can't force anything. And that ability.
I almost didn't do park and rec where it is because I didn't know if I could
facilitate.
I didn't know if my concept was going to fit that layout in space.
Oh, wow.
And like, I felt, the park and rec concept originally for me, I had some other gaming elements to it. And, again, I had to figure it out. I mean, originally where I did giant bucket ball, I was going to do putt-putt.
Oh. Yeah.
But then I started thinking more about putt-putt with the drinking, and I don't know if I really want people, playing putt-putt when they're kind of partying a little bit. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Saw the giant bucket pong in Vegas. There's a place out there doing it. I'm like, it's really cool. And I was glad to bring that to St. Pete, because, nobody was doing it in St. Pete. And, now I see it kind of in our market. I see a place in Tampa doing it. I see a place in St. Pete doing it.
Absolutely.
It's cool. We were first, so I guess it doesn't matter to me though, right? Like, it's a cool game. Go. I didn't invent it. I'm not the inventor of giant bucket pong. Like, at the end of the day, and if you are the inventor of giant bucket pong, you want everybody playing it. So like, who gives a shit? And like, that's the thing too. Like, I didn't invent the cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but you had a little iteration on it. Yeah. But I definitely appreciate you sharing the creative side in this because I've interviewed a couple different restaurateurs and like you not everyone shares that element of like that creativity and that flowingness that you don't think of that when you think of a restaurant owner. So it's awesome to see.
Thanks.
Now, Steven, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Physically?
They might not find you. They'll find the restaurants.
I'll be at one of my places, I'm sure. That's funny, though. I do get those texts like, hey, I'm at your place. I'm like, which one? And it's weird, like, which one are you at? Because people, like, do hit you up and ask you where you are and all those things. But yeah, I get those. But as long as they're coming, that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm on Instagram personally. I think it's just Steven STEPHEN.HTG for Hunger Thirst Group. Yeah. And then obviously each business has their own handle. You can find them all at Hunger Thirst Group. So you go on that Instagram and then they're all listed.
Absolutely. And if you haven't been to any of these restaurants, you have to go check them out because Steven is changing the game.
Thanks.
He's putting St. Pete on the map and he's really making a big difference. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Same. Thanks for having me on, bro.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there and have a great day and keep clocking in.